The Galactic Council's emergency session had been called for the third time this cycle, and Ambassador ZYX could feel the tension crackling through the crystalline chamber like static electricity. Representatives from 47 species sat in their designated atmospheric bubbles, their various forms of agitation clear despite their alien physiologies. The Mantari were clicking their mandibles in rapid succession, the Vortax tentacles writhed with nervous energy, and even the usually stoic crystalline hegemony's delegates were pulsing with unstable light patterns. "The situation has escalated beyond our worst projections," announced High Arbiter Kolmesh, his forearms gesturing toward the massive holographic display that dominated the center of the chamber. The image showed a small blue and green planet rotating slowly, seemingly peaceful from this distance. "The humans have done the impossible. They have made contact with a void serpent." A collective shudder ran through the assembled representatives. Void serpents were creatures of legend and nightmare, being so ancient and powerful that most civilizations had relegated them to mythology. These cosmic horrors could devour entire star systems, their hunger for energy insatiable and their intelligence vast beyond comprehension. They existed in the spaces between dimensions, emerging only when their terrible appetite demanded feeding. "How many human colonies have been consumed?" asked Representative Th Lem of the Aquatic Federation, his gills fluttering with anxiety. "That's just it," Kolmesh replied, his voice heavy with disbelief. "None. 0 casualties reported. In fact, the Void Serpent appears to be protecting human space." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien sounds. Screeches, clicks, harmonic resonances, and electromagnetic bursts filled the air as every species tried to voice their confusion and terror simultaneously. The very idea was absurd. Void serpents didn't protect anything. They consumed everything. Ambassador ZYX raised her primary manipulation appendage for attention. As the representative of the Hive Collective, her words carried significant weight in council proceedings. "High Arbiter, surely our intelligence networks have misinterpreted the data. No species has ever successfully communicated with a void serpent, let alone formed any kind of alliance. These creatures exist purely to devour energy and matter." "I thought the same initially," Kolmesh admitted, his secondary arms activating additional holographic displays. "But our deep space monitoring stations have recorded over 300 hours of interaction between this particular void serpent and human vessels. The creature has not attacked a single human ship. More disturbing still, it has actively defended human colonies from Krythok raiders and eliminated a Devonian armada that strayed too close to human space." The implications sent another wave of panic through the assembly. The Krythok were notorious space pirates whose technology rivaled that of most council members. The Devonians were a militant species that had been expanding aggressively through this sector for decades. If a void serpent was eliminating established military threats to protect humans, it suggested a level of cooperation that challenged everything they knew about cosmic hierarchy. "Show us the recordings," demanded General Vextor of the militant coalition, his scarred carapace bearing evidence of numerous battles. "If humans have somehow weaponized a void serpent, the entire galaxy is at risk." The holographic display shifted, showing grainy footage from a long-range surveillance probe. In the image, a massive serpentine form undulated through space, its scales seeming to absorb light itself. The creature was easily the size of a small moon, its length stretching beyond the probe's visual range. What made the footage truly disturbing was the small human vessel flying alongside it, dwarfed to insignificance by the cosmic predator's bulk. Enhanced audio analysis has revealed continuous communication between the human vessel and the void serpent, Kolmesh continued. "Our xenolinguist teams have identified patterns suggesting not just communication, but what appears to be casual conversation. Preliminary translations indicate the humans refer to the creature by a name, Shadowmere." Representative Dval of the Merchant Guild's trading tentacles curled with anxiety. "A name? They've given it a name? Do they not understand what they're dealing with?" "That's the most troubling aspect of this situation," the High Arbiter replied. "Our psychological analysis suggests the humans are completely unaware of the danger they're in. They appear to view the void serpent as what their language would classify as a pet or companion animal." The word pet rippled through the translation systems in 47 different languages, each carrying the same impossible concept. A void serpent as a pet. The very notion defied every law of cosmic order the Council had spent millennia establishing. Dr. Yilfan of the Scientific Consortium extended her research appendages, interfacing directly with the Council's data networks. High Arbiter, our xenobiological studies indicate that void serpents possess intelligence levels that exceed most council species. The creature's neural capacity should make it impossible to dominate or control through any known means. Which brings us to our current crisis, Kolmesh announced grimly. 3 days ago, our monitoring stations detected the human vessel entering the Forbidden Sector. They're approaching the Void Gardens. The chamber fell into absolute silence. The Void Gardens represented one of the galaxy's most closely guarded secrets, a region of space where reality itself became unstable. It was rumored to be the birthplace of the Void Serpents, a cosmic nursery where these creatures originated from the spaces between dimensions. No ship had ever returned from the Void Gardens. It was considered the ultimate quarantine zone, avoided by every spacefaring civilization. If they awaken additional Void Serpents, whispered Ambassador Kethare of the Peaceful Alliance, the galaxy could face extinction. Our immediate concern, Kolmesh continued, is that preliminary scans suggest the human vessel contains not just adult crew members, but also what appears to be a juvenile human. Our understanding of human biology indicates this individual is likely what they term a child. The implications hit the assembly like a physical blow. If the humans were exposing their young to a void serpent, it suggested either complete ignorance of the danger or confidence in their control that bordered on madness. Either possibility was terrifying. General Vextor's warrior instincts kicked in immediately. We must mobilize the combined fleet. If the humans have lost control of the situation, we need to be prepared for a galactic-level threat. And if they haven't lost control, asked Ambassador ZYX Thora quietly. If they actually have formed some kind of partnership with these creatures? The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. The idea that a relatively young species like humanity could accomplish what millennia of galactic civilization had deemed impossible was almost as terrifying as the alternative. It suggested that human understanding of cosmic forces operated on principles the Council had never encountered. There's more, Kolmesh admitted reluctantly. Our deep space arrays have detected energy signatures suggesting that multiple void serpents may be converging on the Void Gardens. If the humans have inadvertently triggered some kind of gathering, we could be facing not one cosmic predator, but dozens. Representative Th Lem's aquatic form began rapid color changes, a sign of extreme distress. How long before we know the outcome? Current projections suggest the human vessel will reach the heart of the Void Gardens within 72 standard hours, the High Arbiter replied. If they survive the experience, the galaxy will face a new paradigm. If they don't survive, we may face something far worse. The assembly began urgent discussions among species representatives, each trying to calculate the implications for their own territories and populations. The crystalline hegemony delegates pulsed with rapid strategic calculations, while the Merchant Guild representatives were already computing economic impact projections. Ambassador ZYX Thora found herself studying the human vessel on the display, trying to comprehend what kind of species would willingly enter the most dangerous region of known space with a child aboard. Human psychology had always been difficult for other species to understand, but this level of apparent recklessness defied all logic. High Arbiter, she said finally, what do we actually know about this particular human vessel? Who are these people? Kolmesh activated another data display. The ship is registered as the Explorer's Heart, a civilian research vessel. The crew consists of Dr. Sarah Chen, a xenobiologist, Commander Jake Morrison, a former military pilot, Engineer Rosa Santos, and... He paused, checking his data, an 8-year-old human child named Alex Chen, who appears to be Dr. Chen's offspring. A family expedition? General Vextor's tactical mind struggled with the concept. They brought a child into potentially hostile space? Human family structures often involve shared exploration and education, explained Dr. Yilfen, who had spent considerable time studying human social patterns. They appear to view dangerous situations as learning opportunities for their young, though this seems to represent an extreme example of that tendency. A holographic display updated with new sensor data, showing the human vessel's steady progress toward the Void Gardens. The Void Serpent maintained its position alongside the ship, occasionally adjusting course in what appeared to be protective formations. Whatever relationship existed between the humans and the creature, it seemed stable for now. We need to prepare for multiple scenarios, High Arbiter Kolmesh announced. First, mobilize our fastest scout ships to maintain long-range observation. Second, place all border fleets on high alert. Third, begin evacuation protocols for any colonies within 50 light-years of the Void Gardens. If this situation deteriorates, we need to be ready. As the council session dissolved into urgent planning committees, Ambassador ZYX remained focused on the display showing the small human ship venturing into the unknown. In all her years of diplomatic service, she had never encountered a situation where a single vessel could potentially determine the fate of galactic civilization. The humans were either about to prove themselves the most dangerous species in the galaxy, or they were about to demonstrate a form of cosmic understanding that made every other civilization look primitive by comparison. Either way, the galaxy would never be the same. In the depths of space, completely unaware of the panic they had caused, 8-year-old Alex Chen pressed her face against the observation window of the explorer's heart, watching in wonder as her new friend Shadowmere glided through the starfields. To her, this was simply the most amazing adventure any kid could imagine. Alex Chen had discovered Shadowmere 3 weeks ago, though she didn't think of it as a discovery so much as making a new friend. Her mother, Dr. Sarah Chen, had been studying unusual energy readings near the Helix Nebula when their ship's sensors detected something massive moving through the cosmic dust clouds. What the adults saw as a potentially dangerous unknown, Alex saw as the most beautiful creature she had ever imagined. The first contact had been entirely accidental. Alex had been in the observation lounge, working on her mathematics homework, when she noticed something moving outside the reinforced viewing port. At first, she thought it might be space debris or maybe an asteroid with an unusual shape. But, as she watched, the object moved with purpose, its serpentine form undulating through space in patterns that reminded her of dolphins swimming in Earth's oceans. "Mom," she had called excitedly, "there's something alive out there." Dr. Chen had rushed to the observation deck, expecting to see perhaps a space whale or some other known cosmic life form. Instead, she found herself staring at a creature that shouldn't exist according to everything she knew about xenobiology. The being was enormous, easily dwarfing their research vessel, with scales that seemed to absorb light and eyes that glowed with an inner fire that spoke of vast intelligence. Commander Morrison had immediately gone to battle stations, his military training recognizing a potential threat of unprecedented magnitude. Engineer Santos had begun powering up the ship's defensive systems, though they all knew their civilian research vessel carried nothing that could even scratch something of this size. But Alex had pressed her small hands against the viewing port and whispered, "Hello there, beautiful. Are you lost too?" What happened next would haunt the adults for the rest of their lives, though Alex thought of it as perfectly normal. The massive creature had actually responded, turning its cosmic head toward their tiny ship and moving closer. Not in an aggressive manner, but with what could only be described as curiosity. The ship's communication systems had suddenly come alive with patterns of energy that their computers couldn't initially decode. Dr. Chen had worked feverishly to understand what they were receiving, while Morrison kept his hand near the emergency jump controls. It was Alex who had made the breakthrough, though she didn't realize the significance of what she was doing. "I think it's trying to talk," she had announced matter-of-factly, walking over to the communication panel. "Can I try something, Mom?" Before Dr. Chen could stop her, Alex had activated the ship's external transmitters and begun speaking directly into the microphone. "Hi there. I'm Alex. What's your name? Are you alone out here?" The response had been immediate and impossible. The creature's energy patterns had suddenly organized into something resembling language, and their translation computers had begun providing rough interpretations. The cosmic being was indeed trying to communicate, and it seemed particularly interested in the young human who had first noticed it. Over the following days, Alex had spent hours talking with the creature, which she had decided to call Shadowmere after a character in one of her favorite books. The name seemed to please the cosmic entity, who had eventually learned enough human language to communicate in simple but clear sentences. "Small bright one," Shadowmere would say in its deep, resonant mental voice, "you see me truly. Others fear before understanding." Alex found this statement puzzling. Why would anyone be afraid of you? You're wonderful. Look how gracefully you move through space. And your scales catch starlight like jewels. Dr. Chen had initially been terrified that her daughter was communicating with something potentially dangerous, but, as days passed, it became clear that Shadowmere genuinely cared for Alex's well-being. The creature would position itself between their ship and any potential hazards, whether cosmic debris or radiation storms. It had even gently nudged them away from a collapsing micro-wormhole that their sensors hadn't detected until it was almost too late. "Mom," Alex had asked one evening as they shared dinner in the ship's small galley, "Shadowmere says its kind usually live alone. But it's been lonely for a really long time. Can we take it with us on our exploration?" Commander Morrison had nearly choked on his coffee. Alex, honey, that creature is bigger than most space stations. It can't exactly fit in our cargo bay. It doesn't need to come inside, Alex had replied with the simple logic of childhood. It can travel alongside us. Shadowmere likes seeing new places, and it promises to protect us from anything dangerous. The adults had exchanged worried glances. They were already far from any established shipping lanes, conducting research in regions of space that most civilizations avoided. Having a cosmic entity of unknown capabilities following them seemed like asking for trouble. But Alex had already made up her mind, and Shadowmere seemed equally determined to remain with their little family. When they had attempted to leave the nebula region, the creature had followed at a respectful distance, clearly hoping to continue their friendship. Now, 3 weeks later, Alex spent most of her free time in the observation lounge, chatting with Shadowmere about everything from mathematics to what it was like to live in space for thousands of years. The creature was endlessly patient with her questions and seemed genuinely fascinated by human culture and thinking. Small bright one, Shadowmere had said just that morning, your mind works differently than others I have known. You see patterns in numbers and stars that bring joy, not just understanding. Alex had beamed with pride. Math is like music, isn't it? The way numbers fit together in equations is like notes making harmony. Don't you think so? You teach me new ways of thinking, Shadowmere had replied. Your kind has wisdom mine has forgotten. Dr. Chen found these conversations both fascinating and terrifying from a scientific perspective. According to her understanding of cosmic evolution, they were dealing with a life form that potentially predated most stellar formations. Yet this ancient being seemed to find genuine delight in the simple observations of an 8-year-old human child. The ship's computer systems had been continuously recording their interactions with Shadowmere, building what might be the most comprehensive database of xenolinguistic contact in human history. But Dr. Chen was beginning to understand that the real breakthrough wasn't technological, it was emotional. Alex had somehow managed to form a genuine friendship with a cosmic entity through nothing more complicated than treating it with kindness and curiosity. Where most species would see a threat to be analyzed or a resource to be exploited, Alex simply saw another living being who wanted friendship and companionship. Alex, Dr. Chen said, joining her daughter at the observation port, Shadowmere mentioned something about showing you places where its kind gather. What did it mean by that? Oh. Alex turned from the window with excitement. Shadowmere says there's a special place where the young ones of its species learn about the universe. It's called the Void Gardens, and it wants to show me how baby cosmic serpents are born from space itself. Commander Morrison, who had been monitoring their conversation from the bridge, immediately activated internal communications. Dr. Chen, we need to discuss this immediately. Within minutes, the 3 adults were gathered in the ship's small conference room while Alex remained in the observation lounge, happily describing Earth's seasonal changes to her cosmic friend. The Void Gardens, Morrison said grimly, are in the Forbidden Sector. Every star chart I've ever seen marks that region as a no-fly zone. Ships that enter that area simply disappear. Engineer Santos pulled up their navigation displays. According to our databases, the Galactic Council has classified the entire region as off-limits to all traffic. The energy readings coming from that area suggest spatial instabilities that could tear our ship apart. Dr. Chen studied the data, her scientific curiosity warring with her parental instincts. But Shadowmere wouldn't suggest taking Alex somewhere dangerous. The creature has been nothing but protective of her. Maybe it doesn't understand that we're fragile compared to its kind, Morrison suggested. What's safe for a cosmic entity might be instantly lethal for humans. Through the conference room's small window, they could see Alex gesturing animatedly as she continued her conversation with Shadowmere. The massive creature's great head was positioned near their observation port, its glowing eyes focused intently on the small human. We need to make a decision, Dr. Chen said quietly. Do we trust Shadowmere's judgment, or do we find a way to convince Alex that this journey is too dangerous? Before either of her colleagues could respond, Alex's voice came through the ship's intercom system. Mom, Dad, Jake, Rosa. Come quick. Shadowmere says other members of its family are coming to meet us. The 3 adults rushed to the observation deck, where Alex was practically bouncing with excitement. Through the reinforced viewing port, they could see distant shapes moving through space toward their position. More serpentine forms, similar to Shadowmere but varying in size and coloration. Small bright one, Shadowmere's voice resonated through their communication systems. My kin wish to understand how you see the universe. They have traveled far to meet the young human who speaks with star serpents. Alex waved enthusiastically at the approaching figures. This is so amazing. It's like a family reunion in space. Dr. Chen felt her scientific training warring with her protective instincts. They were about to make contact with multiple cosmic entities of unknown capabilities, guided only by her 8-year-old daughter's innocent trust and a creature's promise of friendship. As the other serpents drew closer, their massive forms creating shadows that blocked out entire starfields, Alex turned to her mother with shining eyes. Mom, they want to show me where they come from. Shadowmere says it's the most beautiful place in the galaxy, where new stars are born and space itself dreams. Can we go see it? Please? Looking into her daughter's eager face, then, at the impossible sight of cosmic entities gathering around their tiny ship in apparent welcome, Dr. Chen realized they had already crossed a line from which there was no return. Whatever happened next, humanity's relationship with the universe had fundamentally changed. Plot a course for the Void Gardens, she told Commander Morrison quietly. If we're going to make history, we might as well do it together. Alex cheered and pressed her face back against the viewing port, chatting excitedly with Shadowmere about what they might discover. Around their ship, ancient beings older than civilizations moved in protective formations, guiding humanity towards secrets the galaxy had hidden for millions of years. The Void Gardens defied every law of physics that Dr. Sarah Chen thought she understood. As their ship emerged from the final jump, she found herself staring at a region of space where reality itself seemed to be constantly rewriting its own rules. Nebulae of impossible colors swirled in patterns that hurt to look at directly, while streams of pure energy flowed between floating islands of crystallized spacetime. Mom, Alex whispered, her face pressed against the observation window, it's like someone took a rainbow and taught it how to dance. Shadowmere's mental voice carried warmth and pride. Welcome to the birthplace of my kind, small bright one. Here, the universe dreams new dreams and gives them form. Commander Morrison was struggling to keep their instruments calibrated as sensor readings fluctuated wildly. I'm reading massive gravitational anomalies, but they're not affecting our ship. It's like something is protecting us from the effects. The gardens welcome those who come with pure intent, explained another voice, this one belonging to the largest of Shadowmere's companions. This serpent introduced itself as Ancient Vorthak, a being so old that it remembered when the first stars formed in this galaxy. Your child's heart resonates with the creative force that shapes this place. Dr. Chen watched in amazement as islands of solid matter drifted past their ship, each one supporting impossible ecosystems. Plants that seemed to be made of crystallized light grew alongside trees whose leaves were tiny galaxies. Creatures that appeared to be living geometric equations moved through the air, their forms shifting between different dimensional states. How is any of this possible? She asked, her scientific mind reeling. This is where thought becomes reality, Ancient Vorthak explained. The boundary between imagination and physical law becomes thin here. Your young one's mind, unencumbered by rigid expectations, can perceive and interact with these forces naturally. Alex had been unusually quiet for several minutes, staring out at the wonders surrounding them with an expression of deep concentration. Suddenly, she turned from the window with eyes wide with understanding. They're not just pretty, she said quietly. The colors and patterns, they're trying to tell us something. It's like the whole place is singing, but in math instead of music. Engineer Santos looked up from her readings with surprise. Alex, honey, how could you possibly wait? She checked her instruments again. The energy patterns are following mathematical sequences. Complex ones that our computers are having trouble processing. But they're not complex, Alex said, moving to Santos's workstation. Look, this pattern here repeats every 13th pulse, but it's offset by a Fibonacci sequence. And this one. She pointed to another display. It's showing us how space bends around itself to create those floating islands. Dr. Chen felt a chill of recognition. Her daughter wasn't just observing the phenomena around them, she was comprehending them in ways that their advanced instruments couldn't match. Shadowmere's excitement was palpable through their communication link. She sees the deep patterns. Small bright one, you understand the language of creation itself. It's not hard, Alex said with characteristic childhood matter-of-factness. It's just like when you're drawing and you can see what the picture wants to be before you finish it. The universe is trying to show us how it thinks. Ancient Vorthak moved closer to their ship, its massive form casting shadows that somehow felt comforting rather than threatening. In all my eons of existence, I have never encountered a being who could perceive the fundamental structures so clearly without training. Your species possesses a unique form of consciousness. As they traveled deeper into the Void Gardens, Alex continued to point out patterns and connections that the ship's computers were struggling to process. She identified gravitational flows that weren't detectable on their sensors, predicted the formation of new matter clusters before they appeared, and even suggested course corrections that somehow improved their passage through the unstable regions. There, she said, pointing to what appeared to be empty space. That's where a new baby serpent is getting ready to be born. The adults couldn't see anything in the area she indicated, but their instruments suddenly began detecting massive energy buildups exactly where Alex had pointed. Within hours, they watched in awe as space itself began to fold and twist, creating a vortex of pure creative force. The birthing begins, Shadowmere announced with reverence. Small bright one, you may be the first non-serpent to witness this sacred process. What emerged from the swirling energies was beyond anything Dr. Chen could have imagined. A new consciousness took form, smaller than the adults but still enormous by human standards. The newborn serpent's scales shimmered with colors that had no names, and its first movements through space were tentative but filled with wonder. Alex gasped with delight. Oh, it's beautiful. Hello, little one. Welcome to the universe. The newborn turned toward their ship, drawn by Alex's voice. Ancient Vorthak's mental tone carried surprise. Remarkable. Newlings usually take cycles to acknowledge other forms of consciousness. This one responds to your child immediately. What should we call you? Alex asked the baby serpent directly. The response came not in words but in a burst of images and emotions, concepts of starlight and curiosity, a first breath and infinite possibility. Alex's face scrunched up in concentration as she processed the communication. Star Whisper, she announced finally. That's what it wants to be called. Dr. Chen realized she was witnessing something that would fundamentally change humanity's understanding of consciousness and communication. Her 8-year-old daughter was not only conversing with cosmic entities but helping to name newborn members of their species. Commander Morrison's tactical instincts were still active despite the wonder of their surroundings. Dr. Chen, our long-range sensors are detecting multiple ships approaching our position. The energy signatures don't match any known human vessels. Ancient Vorthak's mental voice carried concern. The fear-driven ones have followed you here. They come with weapons and the intention to separate you from us. Through the swirling energies of the Void Gardens, sleek warships began to emerge from jump points. Their configurations were unfamiliar, but their aggressive formations were unmistakable. Dr. Chen recognized Council design elements. This was a multinational alien fleet. They don't understand, Alex said sadly, watching the approaching ships. They think you're dangerous because they've never tried to be friends with you. Shadowmere's protective instincts immediately activated. They will not harm the small bright one. We will defend her. No, Alex said firmly, surprising everyone. Fighting will just make them more scared. Let me talk to them. Before anyone could stop her, Alex had activated their ship's communication systems. Her young voice broadcast across space toward the approaching alien fleet. Hello out there, she said politely. My name is Alex, and these are my friends. We're not in any danger. The serpents are really nice once you get to know them. Would you like to meet them properly? The response came in multiple alien languages, transmitted simultaneously. Dr. Chen's translation system struggled to keep up, but the general tone was unmistakable: demands for immediate surrender, warnings about dangerous entities, and threats of military intervention. Alex listened to the cacophony with a puzzled expression. They're really upset, she observed. But they're upset about things that aren't true. Shadowmere, can your friends understand their languages? We comprehend their words, Ancient Vorthak replied. But their minds are closed by fear. They see only threat where beauty exists. The alien fleet had formed an aggressive perimeter around the Void Gardens, their weapons charging with energies that made space itself crackle with tension. Several of the cosmic serpents had positioned themselves between the ships and the explorer's heart, their protective instincts clearly activated. This is High Arbiter Kolmesh of the Galactic Council, a translated voice announced. Human vessel, you are ordered to withdraw immediately from this prohibited zone. The entities you are consorting with represent a threat to galactic civilization. Alex looked confused. A threat? But they're helping new life come into existence. How is that threatening? Dr. Chen realized that her daughter's innocent perspective highlighted the fundamental misunderstanding driving this confrontation. The Galactic Council saw the Void Serpents as weapons of destruction because that was the only framework they had for understanding such powerful beings. Alex saw them as friends and protectors because she approached them without preconceived fears. "Hi Arbiter," Dr. Chen responded, taking control of their communications. "My name is Dr. Sarah Chen, xenobiologist. What you're seeing here isn't a threat, it's a first contact situation of unprecedented significance. These entities are not hostile. They're trying to share knowledge with us." "Dr. Chen," came the reply, "our records indicate these creatures have destroyed entire star systems. You and your child are in immediate danger." Alex had been listening intently to the exchange. Suddenly, she brightened with understanding. "Oh. They think my friends eat stars. That's not what happens at all. Shadowmere, can you show them what you really do?" What happened next would be recorded in Council archives as the moment that changed galactic civilization forever. The cosmic serpents began to demonstrate their true nature, not as destroyers but as gardeners of the universe itself. They showed how they guided the formation of new stars from cosmic dust, how they protected developing solar systems from harmful radiation, and how they nurtured the growth of life wherever it emerged. The alien fleet watched in stunned silence as beings they had feared for millennia revealed themselves as shepherds of cosmic evolution, guided by an 8-year-old human child who had seen their true nature from the beginning. The demonstration began with Star Whisper, the newborn serpent Alex had just helped name. Under the guidance of the Ancient Ones, the young cosmic entity reached out with tendrils of pure energy toward a dying star visible in the distance. Rather than consuming it, as the Council fleets expected, Star Whisper began feeding it carefully controlled streams of cosmic energy, rekindling the stellar fires and extending the star's life by millions of years. "Incredible," whispered Dr. Yilfen aboard the lead Council vessel, her scientific instruments recording data that challenged decades of xenobiological theory. "They're not predators. They're cosmic physicians." High Arbiter Kolmesh watched the displays in stunned silence as more serpents began demonstrating their abilities. Ancient Vorthak guided the formation of a new planetary system from cosmic debris, while Shadowmere carefully adjusted the orbit of a rogue asteroid to prevent it from impacting a world that showed early signs of developing life. "Small Bright One," Shadowmere's voice carried to the Council ships as well as the Explorer's heart, "show them how you learn to see truly." Alex moved to the communication panel with the casual confidence of a child who had never learned to fear the impossible. "Hi everyone in the big ships," she said cheerfully. "I know this must be really confusing, but my friends aren't scary at all. They're like cosmic gardeners who take care of the whole galaxy." Representative Th Lem of the Aquatic Federation found himself responding despite his fear. "Child, our records show these creatures consuming entire solar systems. How do you explain that?" "Oh." Alex's voice brightened with understanding. "I think I know what happened. Shadowmere told me about times when stars were getting sick and couldn't be saved. When that happens, the serpents have to carefully take apart the solar system before the sick star explodes and hurts other nearby stars. It's like when a doctor has to remove something bad so the rest of the body stays healthy." Ancient Vorthak's mental voice joined the communication. "The young one speaks truth. We have been forced to dismantle systems where stellar death would create chain reactions threatening entire sectors. Your species interpreted necessary medical procedures as acts of destruction." Dr. Chen watched her daughter explaining cosmic-scale engineering to a fleet of alien warships with the same patience she used to teach her classmates basic arithmetic. The absurdity of the situation was matched only by its effectiveness. The Council representatives were actually listening. "But why haven't you communicated with other species before?" asked Ambassador ZYX. "Surely this misunderstanding could have been prevented." "Because they approach us with fear and weapons," Shadowmere replied sadly. "Fear creates barriers that prevent true understanding. Only one who comes with an open heart can perceive our actual nature." "Alex isn't afraid of anything," Commander Morrison said with pride, speaking over their comlink. "She once tried to pet a wild bear because she thought it looked lonely." The conversation was interrupted by emergency alarms aboard several Council vessels. New contacts were appearing on their sensors, not more serpents, but something far worse. A massive fleet of Devonian warships was jumping into the system, their aggressive intentions clear from their attack formations. "This is Fleet Commander Zarthek of the Devonian Expansion Force," came a harsh broadcast. "We claim this system and all anomalous energy sources within it. Unknown vessels will withdraw immediately or be destroyed. The Devonians were notorious throughout the galaxy for their aggressive expansion policies and superior military technology. Their fleet consisted of over 100 ships, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything the Council had brought. "We're caught between them and the Void Gardens," Morrison observed grimly. "Our ship can't outrun Devonian interceptors, and the Council fleet doesn't have enough firepower to stop them." Alex watched the approaching Devonian ships with concern. "They're really angry, aren't they? And they want to hurt my friends." "Fear not, small bright one," Ancient Vorthax's voice carried confidence despite the overwhelming odds. "No harm will come to you or your protectors." What happened next became known throughout the galaxy as the Void Gardens incident, though those who witnessed it firsthand preferred to call it the day the universe revealed its true guardians. The cosmic serpents spread out around both the human ship and the Council fleet, forming a protective barrier. But, instead of engaging in combat, they began to sing not with voices, but with harmonized gravitational waves that resonated through space itself. The song was beautiful beyond description, a mathematical harmony that spoke of cosmic order and the delicate balance that maintained life throughout the galaxy. It was a song of creation, of nurturing growth, and of protecting the innocent from those who would destroy for profit. As the harmonies built, space itself began to respond. The chaotic energies of the Void Gardens organized into patterns of incredible beauty, creating barriers of crystallized spacetime between the Devonian fleet and their intended targets. The Devonian weapons found themselves unable to lock onto targets through the interference, their destructive energies absorbed harmlessly by the cosmic symphony. "Impossible," snarled Fleet Commander Zarthak. "No known technology can create interference patterns of this magnitude." Alex pressed her face against the observation window, watching the light show with delight. "They're not using technology," she explained to the comm channel that was now carrying her voice to hundreds of ships. "They're using the universe itself. It's like conducting an orchestra where the instruments are gravity and light and space." Dr. Chen realized her daughter was describing phenomena that represented the pinnacle of theoretical physics, explaining it with the casual wonder of a child describing how flowers grow. The implications for human understanding of cosmic forces were staggering. The Devonian fleet found themselves increasingly frustrated as their weapons proved ineffective against targets they couldn't properly detect. Worse, their ships were beginning to experience gravitational effects that gently but irresistibly pushed them away from the Void Gardens. "We are not your enemies," Ancient Vorthax's voice reached the Devonian ships. "But we will not permit harm to come to those under our protection. Withdraw now, and no conflict need occur." Fleet Commander Zarthak's response was to order maximum firepower against the nearest serpent. The concentrated energy of 50 heavy cruisers struck Shadowmere directly, a blast that should have vaporized anything smaller than a moon. The energy simply dispersed around Shadowmere's form like water around a stone, absorbed into the serpent's scales and redirected harmlessly into space. Alex giggled with relief. "I told you they were tough." "Shadowmere, that tickled, didn't it?" "Indeed, small bright one. Their weapons feel like gentle rain." The psychological impact on both fleets was immediate and profound. The Council representatives realized they were witnessing beings whose power exceeded their worst fears, yet who showed restraint and mercy. The Devonians found themselves facing opponents against whom their military superiority was meaningless. "This is your final warning," Ancient Vorthax announced. "Withdraw from this system or face the consequences of threatening the nursery grounds of cosmic life." When the Devonians responded with another volley of weapons fire, the serpent's patience finally ended. But, instead of retaliation, they demonstrated their true power in a way that would be remembered throughout galactic history. The entire Devonian fleet simply found itself elsewhere. Not destroyed, not damaged, but relocated instantaneously to empty space several thousand light-years away. The serpents had moved over 100 heavily armed warships across impossible distances as casually as a human might move toy boats in a bathtub. "How?" whispered General Vextor aboard one of the Council ships. Alex provided the answer with her characteristic directness. "They folded space like origami and slid the mean ships through the crease. It's really clever, nobody gets hurt, but the bullies have to go away and think about what they were doing." High Arbiter Kolmesh found his voice first among the stunned Council representatives. "Ancient Ones, we owe you and the human child our apologies. We came here prepared for war against what we believed were threats to civilization. Instead, we have discovered guardians beyond our comprehension." The small bright one showed us that fear need not rule, Shadowmere replied. Perhaps your species can learn this wisdom as well. Alex had been quiet during the exchange, but now she spoke up with excitement. Oh. I just figured out something really important. You know how everyone was scared because they thought the serpents were dangerous? But it was actually the opposite, they were scared of danger. They've been protecting everyone this whole time, but nobody knew because nobody tried to be friends with them. Dr. Chen realized her daughter had just articulated the fundamental truth that had eluded galactic civilization for millennia. The cosmic serpents weren't predators to be feared but protectors who had been carrying out their guardianship in isolation, misunderstood and maligned by those they served. Ambassador ZYXthera's voice carried wonder as she spoke. Child of Earth, you have given us a gift beyond measure. You have shown us that the universe is not a hostile place to be conquered, but a garden to be tended with wisdom and care. Does this mean we can all be friends now? Alex asked hopefully. Because I think the serpents would really like having people to talk to. They get lonely sometimes, and they know so many amazing things about how the universe works. As the Council fleet powered down their weapons and began forming peaceful formations around the Void Gardens, Alex continued chatting with the cosmic serpents about everything from quantum mechanics to her favorite bedtime stories. She had no idea that she had just prevented a galactic war and initiated what would become the greatest advancement in cosmic civilization since the development of faster-than-light travel. To her, she had simply made some wonderful new friends and helped some very powerful but shy creatures find the courage to make friends with others. In her 8-year-old mind, that was exactly how the universe should work. 3 months later, the Void Gardens had become the site of the galaxy's first interspecies cosmic research station, with Alex Chen as its youngest but most influential member. The cosmic serpents had begun sharing their knowledge freely, leading to advances in stellar engineering, gravitational manipulation, and the fundamental understanding of consciousness itself. And, whenever diplomatic tensions arose between species, Alex would remind everyone that friendship was always better than fighting, a lesson she had learned from the galaxy's most ancient and powerful guardians who had been waiting eons for someone brave enough to simply say hello.